Oh, good morning, you guys. Something I want to talk about in this video is something that almost nobody gives any thought. It's something we take for granted every day, and that is when we travel in our vehicles. And there's something that is always on my mind whenever I've gone camping, especially when I go camping down in Pennsylvania. There's a few different places that I camp down there. But out of the places there are to camp in Pennsylvania, the most dangerous one is Tracy Ridge because of its distance and isolation, its remoteness. And when I travel there from my house to Tracy Ridge in McKean County, Pennsylvania, I cross 27 bridges, 27 of them. Some of them are huge, and some of them are just a 2-lane country bridge. But there's 27 in total. And sometimes when I'm up at Tracy Ridge, I think about if anything were to happen to any of those bridges or all of those bridges, like if a major earthquake were to hit while I was up there, without a boat, I'd have absolutely no way to get home. I'd have no way to get home. With a canoe, it would take me roughly 4 to 5 days because I take into account my health, my age, and how far distance wise I can walk in a day. How far can I travel in a day before I'm absolutely exhausted? And that doesn't even count if I'm carrying anything, pulling anything. But without a boat, I'd have no way to get home because to go around anywhere where there's waterways is miles upon miles out of my way. You would need a boat to get home. Otherwise, you'd be stranded where you are for God knows how long. And this concerns me because anytime that you travel here in the state of New York, where I live, I have yet to drive down any road. Doesn't matter if it's a back road, a main drag, a 2-lane, 55-mile-an-hour main drag, the interstate, the throughway. It doesn't matter where I go. There's bridges to cross. There's bridges everywhere in New York because we have so much water and so many waterways, rivers, streams, and lakes and reservoirs. When I go to Tracy Ridge, I even drive over a dam to get there, a spillway dam. If any of this infrastructure were to collapse, the inconvenience would be catastrophic. Sometimes when I go to Tracy Ridge, I think to myself, I should have brought my canoe. I've got an 11-foot, 9-inch solo canoe that weighs 33 pounds. It's on a dolly that has bicycle tires, and it's extremely light and easy to wheel around. Something like that would be so valuable if there was a catastrophe, because not only would that small boat get me home, but I could wheel whatever belongings I would have to take with me in it. So sometimes when I go camping, I think I should just put that up on top of the van just in case. Because any of us, you guys, I don't care what state you live in, where you live, any of us that leave home in our vehicles, we take it for granted that our vehicles are going to get us back home. But what if they don't? Because it's not just the mechanical possibilities of what could go wrong with your vehicle. It's not just the vehicle that something could happen to. A big storm could kick up in the night and down a bunch of trees, blocking your way to where you could end up having to go miles out of your way due to the sudden detour. And if you don't have enough gas or a station nearby to fuel up, you could be in a bad situation. We don't always have enough food with us if we go on an adventure to account for more days staying than we anticipated. I know I don't even always do that. Sometimes I do, but not always. The last time I went up to Tracy Ridge to camp with my brothers, my one brother called me and he says, "Watch out for the tree that's down." And when I was driving the winding, twisting road that goes neighbors the reservoir to get all the way down across the state line into Pennsylvania before I take Sugar Run up to Tracy Ridge, there was a big tree down. And when he said there was a tree down, I imagine just a small little tree that was sticking out in the road in the way. No, this thing was a huge tree and it was all the way across the highway. I had to literally go towards the ditch with the van to get around the tip of the tree. Anybody hauling a camper, they wouldn't be able to do it. And then when I came around the bend, there it was, just out of the blue. So if I wasn't watching for it, I could have literally run right into the tree. And it was just one tree down. So you never know what could go wrong, what could happen. Flash flood. There's just you never know when a freak storm's going to crop up. A tornado could hit. People should really be prepared. And I remember years ago, I had a couple folding Dayhan bikes, really nice ones. One was an original one from California. It was yellow. It was all aluminum, super light. They fold up into almost nothing, about the size of a small suitcase. And there's a guy to the north of me that's selling one that's red. And I've been thinking about buying it and putting it underneath the bed riser in the van because even having a bicycle as alternative transportation, though you can't pack much on a Dayhan, it does have a small little spring loaded rack over the rear tire on it. You'd be very limited on what you could take with you from your vehicle if you had to trek out with a bicycle. But even something like that, you could cover more distance than if you were walking. But the problem here where I live is that there are so many water crossings in all directions, in all four directions. It don't matter if you go north, east, south, west. It doesn't matter. There's bridges and big waterways everywhere. So without some watercraft, a kayak, a canoe, something light and manageable by yourself, I do not see how I would make it back home. There's just too many bodies of water here. I mean, to cross 27 bridges just to go to a campground gives you an example of just how much there is. And some of these bodies of water are several miles wide, and there's no way you could swim it. At least I couldn't. So even with a canoe and just being able to take just a fraction of my belongings with me, if something like that were to happen, it would still take me roughly 4 to 5 days or longer, depending on weather, what type of terrain what I would encounter along the way. There's no way to predict that or know that. But if everything went smooth, 4 to 5 days at best to get home. When reality, it could be more like a week. And would I have enough food with me for that journey? No, because I wouldn't be able to carry as much as I would need. Because being that that boat is a solo canoe and so small, I'm limited on how much stuff I can pack in it with me. And when I think of that, there's some times where I tell myself, why do I come up here? Why do I put myself at risk for that? So, that's just something to think about, you guys. When you head out in your vehicle, yeah, you could have a full tank of gas. You could have brand new tires on your vehicle. Everything be up and, mechanically good. But if something happened that didn't pertain to your vehicle and it was something outside of your control, you have to ask yourself, how would I get back if I couldn't use my vehicle to get back home? And how far away is home? How many miles is it? Am I going to walk it? Am I going to have a folding bicycle that I can, unfold and lock it up and then ride it home? Would that even be doable? Because, like, for me, a bicycle would be great on land to get me further than I could walking. But then once I came to a water crossing, that bicycle is useless. Useless. Could a folding Dahan fit in my canoe? Absolutely. And then I could, once I get back to dry land, I could tow the canoe behind the Dahan, but it still would take up valuable real estate that I'd probably need for food. So there's a trade-off there. But you guys, we all try to prepare. We all try to make sure we got a good spare, that it's up on air, a good jack, a good tire iron, a roadside kit, jumper cables, things like that. But when it comes to something that could happen to where it has absolutely nothing to do with your vehicle and it's an infrastructure problem or storm damage or something that makes your route home impassable, you got to ask yourself, if you live in an area like I do, where there's a lot of water crossings, how are you going to get home? I'm so concerned about with what I saw in the future coming to where it almost makes me, just because my canoe is only 33 pounds, it makes me want to haul it on my van all the time because there is so much water here that I would have to cross, that if something like that were to happen, not saying it would, but if it were to happen, I would absolutely need that canoe without a doubt. The only other way you'd be able to cross a water crossing is if there was a boat somewhere and you just took it. And that's not me. I don't believe in stealing. But if it was a life or death situation and there was like a John boat on shore somewhere and you needed it to get to the other side, well, you got to do what you got to do. But I would rather have my own watercraft to get home so I can take it with me to the next water crossing and then cross again. And then there's some rivers to where I could paddle and I could shave off some miles coming home just by paddling as far as that river would take me before I'd have to get out and continue on land. But you guys, I don't know anybody that talks about this. I don't know anybody that thinks about this. But in this day and age where things happen just all the time out of the blue, we really do need to think about, if we leave home in our vehicle, is that vehicle going to get us back home? Just because you leave home in the vehicle doesn't mean you're going to return home in that vehicle. You have to think about all scenarios and make sure you got those bases covered. Because if you don't, you are really going to kick yourself if something were to happen and you tell yourself, I wish I would have thought of this. I wish I would have had this in my vehicle. Try to think about it doesn't matter if the odds are very, very slim that would happen, it's still a possibility. You have to literally think about everything and prepare and equip your vehicle as much as you possibly can without it being full of junk and all kinds of stuff in it, weighing it down and everything. I mean, just make sure you've got the basic emergency essentials to get you home. And so that's why I want to do this video, just to talk about that, because for me here where I live, without a canoe or a kayak or some way to cross water, I would be screwed if something happened to where I couldn't drive across bridges. There's just too many of them here. There's no way I'd get back home. So maybe I should haul the canoe with me just in case. Thanks for watching, you guys, and we'll see you again in the next one. Bye-bye.